September 7th, 2023. Excuse me. We will now call the September 7th, 2023 City Council meeting to order.
Councilmember Howe.
Present.
Councilmember Hyman.
Present.
Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Worth.
Present.
Councilmember Wright. Here. Vice Mayor Ripple.
Here.
Mayor Knopfler.
Here.
This evening we have our prayer and pledge by Councilmember Jackson.
Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that as we come before you this evening, that you give us knowledge and you guide us in doing the business of the people of the city of Clarksburg, and that you guide us in doing your business, and that you continue to guide us in your holy way. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening we have a special presentation by our mayor, and it's our extracurricular youth grant awards.
Can I have Miss Walker and the Clarksburg Little Eagles Youth Cheerleading Program, please? I don't bite very hard. We are in receipt of your two extraordinary grant program applications, one for the Clarksburg Little Eagles Youth Football Program and the second for the Clarksburg Little Eagles Cheerleading Program. We are pleased to announce that both applications have been approved for the maximum amount of $500 each, as the policy requirements have been met and the EIN number depicting the 501c3 nonprofit status provided. Enclosed herein, please find a check in the amount of $500 for the Clarksburg Little Eagles Youth Cheerleading Program. We wish you much success this football season and congratulate you on this award. They're taking pictures, so y'all want to look at this? Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Mr. Kirby, you want to bring your fellows up here?
Mighty Mike's right here in the front. Mighty Mike's in front. Kiwi, come on. Back here. You stay right here.
It's warm. My little wiggles. Hi, guys. Ladies, how are we? Mr. Kirby, if you want me to read the same letter, but I'm here to present you with a check for $500 for these young ladies and gentlemen that could be future RCB and WBU players. So on behalf of the city, I'd like to present you with a check for $500. Sir.
Thank you.
Look over here.
Over here. Over here.
We're looking right first. And now we're going to look left.
Look over here.
Now we're look left. Your other left. Yeah. Everybody say hi to Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Out the door, man.
Good to see you.
Hey, we have a home game this week up at RCB, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. It's our first home game. We just do it all out. We got tunnels and snow. Thank you all.
Jason Myers, the Clarksburg Water Board, wishes to address the council concerning the Chestnut Street project.
Thank you for placing us on the agenda and allowing me to come before you all this evening. As the old saying goes, if at first you don't succeed, try again. This is the fourth time I'm making this presentation here, but from a different audience. So again, appreciate the time this evening. Here tonight with me, have Doug Smith from the Thrasher Group, of Albert Cox, former mayor. He told me to say that, Jimmy. And president of Clarksburg Water Board, and Jason Farrell, our finance director. Coming to you all this evening about the Chestnut
Part of the issue with this plant or this water line is that if this particular water line goes down, there is very few valves on it that allow us to shut it down and keep the system running at the time. So if we have a problem at the plant or on this water line, we shut it down. Most of the city is affected. We've got to go way out into the system in order to shut valves down to isolate this particular area. This area, again, has been inundated with some problems over the years. It's It's not one that you want to mess around with. If this line does break, the damages on it can be catastrophic because of the size and the pressure on this line. So it's about 2,100 feet of line. It is a very difficult line to replace because in the street, that street is an existing 24-inch line. I believe there's a 16, a 10, and a 12 there already, and a 6-inch line, I believe, as well. So there's a multitude of lines in this street. Construction of it is going to be very difficult. We did our best to estimate this cost. We had 4 bidders on the project. They came into the project. The first bidder, if you can, I know the words on there are really kind of small. I apologize for that, but in order to get all the information, we're on there. The bid came in at about 1.5 million. And the problem we had was our second lowest bidder was about 2.6, 2.7. So a huge difference. Fortunately, the contractor that is going to be doing this project is one that I have worked with for probably 25 years. He's a very reputable guy. He saw, we went through his bid to make sure he was okay and wasn't going to be harmed by this. He is confident he can do it for the price we have on this project. We have tried to do several things to manage the cost on this. So I'll just kind of jump real quickly into the budget of this as well. Clarksburg, in our original estimate for a total project cost, we were at $2.4 million. Once you add everything up for the actual project, where we have the bids in hand, a minor change order, you'll notice some notes out to the side for these things. Our actual number now is approximately 2.75. So we have a deficiency of 350,000 for this project. A couple of things I want to really point out in which we got with the management at Clarksburg Water Board to help try to save cost early on in this is we pre-purchased the materials for this project. Those materials were in the neighborhood of 862,000. By doing that direct purchase and not having the contractor, we were able to save about $130,000 of markup on this, which would have been straight to someone else. Also, Jason did a really good job of stepping on my fingers, kicking me in the shins, and working the engineering price down. And that particular part, the engineering fees were able to cut out about 164,000 of those costs as well. And also working with his in-house engineer to do the inspection instead of hiring somebody else to do the inspection, he was able to save 88,000. Now, with all of those savings, we're still, the number we ended up with was the $350,000 deficit. It would have been much higher had we not done those savings. We were all, cognizant of how the bidding market is right now. Materials prices have gone, so we were trying to preemptively save money rather than wait until afterwards to do what we could. I do believe we've got a very good contractor. Materials are here where we're close to being ready to start. We've just got a shortcoming on that particular part of it, and I'll actually let Jason talk about that part of it.
Thank you. So if you go to the project funding breakdown, kind of shows you from the funding aspect. Originally, we asked for $1 million from the city of Clarksburg. That's what we originally asked for back in 21 and in 22. Harrison County Commission, same thing. We asked for $1 million. They did give us half of that, $500,000, which we're grateful for. And as you can see, originally we had $500,000 of our own money in it, but we revised that since we didn't get any money from the city and the county commission gave us half of what we asked for. We had the finance director look inside the budget to see where we can make up the difference. So we came up with the 1.9. So we got the 1.9 out of our reserves, plus the $500,000 from the commission. Thought we're ready to go on this project. as you can see, even tightening down our belt straps and trying to milk everything and try to really draw down and pull down all the prices we could and try to reduce all the cost. We're still $350,000 over. And that's what I'm asking you all this evening. I don't know how much ARPA money you have available. I'm just asking if there was a way we can get $350,000 to plug this hole so we can move forward with the project. That's why we're in front of you all today. And then our financial budget is on the back. It's a condensed version. It's much more complicated, but I had the finance director. He's here if you have any questions, to condense it way down to a one-pager. And he's here if you have any questions. And I'm here. If you have any questions, these folks are here if you have any questions.
Any other questions, Lynn?
You have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Why was there such a difference between the first bid and the second, the 1.5 versus 2 point? You said
Inflation, cost of materials and labor. See, that 2.4 million is actually, this project was started back in 2018 is when they started building it.
Okay.
And we kept it at 2.4, knowing as COVID happened, inflation, that's why we went through and we pieced out, we done materials as one bid and bought them so that there was no markup.
Right.
Because if you do one contract and make the contractor pay for it, it's 15% markup. So I said, Doug, we're going to do 2 contracts. We're going to do materials only and construction. And I'm glad we did because we saved money.
Mhm.
And then what part of this can we do in-house? And we did that. Of course, I stepped on his toes and brought the engineering fees down as well. So, but again, we got it down to this much. So
Said the Chestnut Street project has been talked about since 2018.
it has, yeah, way before I started.
Was there thought in 2018 of exactly when construction would start? Was that hampered by?
It was,
COVID? I mean,
at that time, they were just doing the design. It was just one of those projects they wanted to do. And then as soon as they knew this ARPA money was coming, they kind of ramped it up. And, you know, we even applied for CDS funding, which is congressionally directed spending funding, you know, all at the same time. You know, we've tried. As you all know, trying to ask for grant money now, even if we try to go to the governor's office or go to the state for this $350,000, we are getting ready to start on a $90 million project. $90 million, it's the largest in the state. Of that, $22 million of it's grant, which is almost unheard of. So $68 million is going to be buried by our ratepayers. Because I just had a call earlier today with Senator Manchin's office on another project that we're looking at that we badly need. They said, well, go to the state. We've already tapped them out. You got $22 million we're pulling from the infrastructure money coming from DC. Everything is geared to lead replacement, as it should, but we have other problems too on top of that. So trying to get grant money when we have this huge project ahead of us, and rightfully so, that money needs to be spread all over the state, not just here in Harrison County. I get it, but we have other problems. But so seeking grants is, yeah, hey, I'm not above asking. I'll ask, but I know what the answer is going to be. We've already helped you.
I've requested budgets going back to 2019, the Clarksburg Water Board, which apparently aren't posted on your guys' website. So I asked Kim for those.
Sure.
I noticed there was lots of capital purchases, like big trucks. And I mean, I understand that you guys got to keep going on that, but it seems like some of those purchases may have been, you know, postponed to focus on the Chestnut Street Water Project. Is that something that you guys, I mean, you had to have like an F-550 and a big dumper? And I mean, I understand that obviously the city needs that stuff too.
Right.
But I mean, it seems like knowing that going into this massive project on Chestnut Street, maybe you could have.
I can't answer that. It was before my time here, but
Oh, well, I mean, the budgets I saw were from last year to 2019. I mean,
those, we have a replacement schedule. And those were on a spit to already be replaced. We've throttled a lot of things back, You know, we do have money in reserve, but just like I said, we're getting ready to start on a $90 million project. I'm telling you, as they replace mains and our system starts getting short up, we're gonna be blowing lines everywhere outside of the project area. and we're gonna have to fund those in-house. The project's not gonna fund those. So as they start replacing lines and as the system starts getting tighter, we're gonna start blowing lines in neighborhoods. It's gonna happen. I mean, I've been in this business 23 years, it's gonna happen. So as we replace lines, we're gonna be blowing lines other places. Those replacements comes out of our coffers, just like the blowout over here on West Pike Street. Thank God we had money in reserve. That came out of our coffers. That wasn't an insurance job. That was no grant. That came out of our money that we had in reserve. And, you know, that's $500,000 just right there. That was $500,000. Just got the bill today.
Well, I certainly don't envy you, Jason, because it seems like you walked into a massive mess when you
Yep.
took the job at the water board,
Yep.
between the lead lines and everything else. So I appreciate you coming, speaking to us about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jason, how many municipalities do Clarksburg Water Board supply?
We supply all the municipalities in here except for Lumberport. We have 14 resale customers. So we produce water and supply water to 96% of Harrison County, 96%.
Have you approached any of these
No,
municipalities?
yeah, Shinston Ice from us on part of their system.
We do a little bit of Shinson.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's part of the county.
I guess I'll follow on with what the mayor was saying. I mean, considering, you know, from the documents that we have here and how it affects nearly the entire county, this one stretch of line, I mean, could it be possible that we kind of get some more asks from other municipalities in the area and not just entirely on the county and the city? I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, if it's going to affect the airport, it seems like Bridgeport should have a big stake in that too. I mean, that's just my opinion, but.
and I've been asked that. However, I try to take myself and put myself in their position. What do they have to gain? Because they're still gonna be paying the same rates. I mean, they're not gonna get, we're taking money from them and they don't, I mean, yeah, they benefit because of the reliability, but they're still gonna be paying the same rates, whether they pay us money or not. So they have nothing to benefit.
Mhm.
But yeah, I thought about that too.
Any other questions?
I mean, I understand you all have needs and you all have a lot of problems. This is a whole new group here, your cleanup crew. I understand that. Anything you can do to help us, we'd be grateful.
So Jason, just to clarify, the ARPA funds, when the city received the allocation of $6.2 million, the county received X amount as well. The water board typically, as throughout the other parts of the state, they received ARPA funds directly, but
Because of
Clarksburg
our
Water Board
autonomy.
Does not, because of the autonomy and you're under the city.
That's
charter,
correct. Yeah, we got, as of today, as me standing here before you, we have not got 1 cent.
And just to
from ARPA
clarify,
money.
then you've also contacted the Senator Manchin, Senator Capito's office requesting the
That
one,
is
the
correct.
1 million.
I
And their
actually
answer
was
was
In his
the
office in
city.
DC, and it came out of his, not his staffers, it came out of Senator Manchin's mouth. He said that money was given to Clarksburg to get to you,
Mhm.
and it never did. That came out of the senator's mouth. He said, we sent that to municipalities and counties to get. That was supposed to be used for 3 purposes only. I don't know how it got changed. Water, sewer, broadband, and I think they added storm sewer and stuff like that kind of stuff. Infrastructure, guys, infrastructure. That's one thing I have to give to the county commission. They at least took that money and that's all it went for was infrastructure. That's what it was intended for. It wasn't to backfill budgets. It wasn't to do crazy things with. It was for infrastructure.
But there's just a little bit of irony about backfilling budgets. You're coming here to ask us to backfill your budget. I mean,
No,
can you see
this-
the irony in that? I mean, it's,
We appropriated $1.9 million in our budget for this project. This is over and beyond this.
I understand. Thanks, Jason.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yes, sir.
Approval of minutes of the regular session of August 17, 2023.
So moved.
So,
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Petitions, communications, and public hearings. Brett Segrist wishes to address council concerning wall and equipment on a street of Buchanan Avenue.
Good evening. I'm Fred Sigrist. appreciate the opportunity to have a chance to speak of an issue we're having over at Buchanan Avenue. I've lived at 350 Buchanan Avenue for going on 35 years. Beautiful street and our lovely neighborhood. I'm concerned that the wall that has been built, what I call the Louis Johnson House, but I think it's 317 Buchanan Avenue, is right on the street. It impedes people sometimes who walk along the street if there are two cars coming from different directions. It becomes a danger for the people walking. It's my understanding that it's actually on city property, and I really think it needs to be addressed by city council, and I think it should be removed. My second issue is the equipment that is being stored on the property. It seems like it's equipment, a heavy-duty equipment yard. It is really ruining the character of our street and our neighborhood. And I think that needs to be addressed too. I just think it's out of character for our residential street. So thank you for the opportunity to hear my complaints or something for you to address. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City.
Jack Keeley, 316 Buchanan Avenue, wishes to address the council concerning the wall as well.
I may sound like the echo for my neighbor there, but we have a problem over in Buchanan Avenue. It's, the wall's been ongoing for a good little bit, and I understand there's trying to take action to get that wall back on the property owner's property. But this has been going on for 2 years now. The property has been torn up and construction taking place. And I don't think you can use a private property for a construction laydown area, even if you've got a contract in the neighborhood. I think that needs to be looked at. And the fact that somebody who lives on that property says, it's my property, I can do what I want to with it, I think that's a thumb in the eye of city council. And I think you all need to be cognizant that it's your job to get that straightened up over there. It's been going on now for 2 years. And the contract for putting some curbs around the backside of the street in Upspring Avenue, as a contractor, it's deplorable condition. I don't see why whoever the owner is, whether it's a city or not, would stand for a piece of work that is so irregular and wavy. I think it needs to be looked at as to whether it needs to be removed and put back in properly. But I hate to see them stay on the construction site any longer than they have to. So I appreciate your attention to the Buchanan Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Keeler.
Richard Ogden, 207 West Pike Street, wishes to address council concerning the green space at the corner of 3rd and West Pike Street.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I haven't lived in Clarksburg as long as most of you. I've only been here 11 years. But I have memories of Clarksburg that go way back beyond any of those that I see here and anybody that I see behind me. No one here is as old as I am. I grew up in Shinston. I have many memories in the 40s and 50s of riding the electric cars here to shop. Love shopping. My family came up here on a regular basis on the streetcars, shopped at stores like Parsons Howders and the Palace and Mons and Mellett's and Rex-Hex and the Working Men's Store. And it was a thriving downtown. Everybody's heard stories. All of you that are young have heard stories about how thriving Clarksburg was back in those days in the 40s and 50s. Sadly, it's not that way today. But I moved back here 11 years ago after living away from Harrison County for roughly 46 years. I came back visiting my family from time to time. But after retiring and wanting to get away from the Texas heat, my wife and I decided to move back here and hope that Clarksburg would one day be the way that I remembered it and the way I explained to her and told her about it. I looked in Morgantown, I looked in Bridgeport, I looked in Shinston, I looked in Buchanan, as well as 2 or 3 other states for places to live. And I found the ideal place for me here, what I thought, it's in the Gore Lux building, in the old Gore Hotel. All of you know where that is. Probably some of you have been in there. I know some of you have been in it. And I would welcome you, call me and make an appointment. I'll show you my apartment. You can see other apartments over there because it's quality living. And if Shiston too, though, Al, if Clarksburg is ever going to get back to where we would like it to be, we need businesses. And in order to get businesses, we need to have customers, residents, patrons here that will shop, patrons that can afford to shop, that can spend money. I'm not talking about, this is not welfare living. These are high dollar apartments, probably some of the highest rent in Harrison County, but well worth it for what you get. And the people who have lived there in the 5 years that I've lived there, they've been doctors, dental hygienists, college coaches, numerous teachers and nurses, stockbroker. And those are just some of the people who've lived there, people who can afford to pay things. We're not talking about the backpackers that roam the streets regularly. So in order to have residents there, we've got to have apartments. And in order to have apartments, that building needs to have some parking. My understanding is that at one time they had somewhat of an agreement, understanding that at least that green spot right here at 3rd and West Pike would be available to them. The city would actually make money on a lease from it, and that they would have the whole responsibility for putting in the parking lot with landscaping, lighting, street paving, and of course, lining and whatnot. And I don't understand. I saw in the paper a couple of weeks ago where the city council refused that opportunity, and instead someone wanted to put in a fountain or something like we used to have when I first moved here. That didn't work so well, I understand. I'm just here to plead with you that if this opportunity comes up again, that you will consider being a progressive council that I hope you are, to do so and make a decision so that that apartment can grow, that our Gore-Lux development can grow, because we will have the additional space. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver.
Ryan DeBar, 118 Waverly Way, wishes to address council concerning ethics and infrastructure.
I'm going to speak on fast because I did not intend to speak on the ethics matter today, and I want to get everything in. I saw right before I came up here, Gary Key settled with the Ethics Commission. He admitted fault, paid $1,000 fine, and he also tried to throw shade at Richard Marsh and disgraced former Mayor Ryan Kennedy for misleading him about what the law said. I think there's some merit to that, but there's also the fact that he contributed to an atmosphere where people were afraid to tell the truth. I know in 2021, they were bragging about how they got the condemnation list down to 0, demolition list down to 0, everything was great. And when people pointed out the situation with Genesis Youth Center, a house that had burned down that was still standing, not condemned, a garage with the roof caved in, toxic chemicals stored in, not condemned, a youth center with a dozen homeless living in it. I was personally attacked and threatened. They said, if you don't shut up, there's going to be war and blood will be spilled. It seems kind of like Vladimir Putin's threat of war. There was blood spilled, but maybe not who they thought it would be. But that all happens because you create a culture of fear and dishonesty. You reward not telling the truth. You reward the people who lie. You punish the people who tell the truth. You know, Vladimir Putin has Pravda, Russia Today, all his media outlets that just take whatever he says and report it as the gospel truth. That's been happening in this city for 30 years. Just moving on, I hear all kinds of ideas since I moved back to Clarksburg 13 years ago, what the city needs. It's taxes, it's parking, it's slumlords, it's the Waldo, it's the Mission, it's the Meth Head Church. Every city from here to St. Louis is a Rust Belt city, has some of the same problems, and some are doing good, some aren't. It's not that simple. One thing I never hear mentioned, it's obvious why. Steptoe used to have 450 people. Dominion used to have 350 people. Jackson Kelly, Toothman Rice, they all paid taxes to Harrison County and to the city of Clarksburg. And now that tax money goes to pay the debts of the developers along Jerry Dove. You can debate the wisdom of that. Maybe that was necessary to keep jobs here. Maybe it was necessary to draw new money in, but that's $100 million of debt. Most of it with Charles Point has been borrowed. That's $5.5 million at least that we pay every year to pay off a private developer's bonds. That's money we could fix the water sewer problems with, but we don't have it. I thought I had a fix to that, because how do you, when the board's tilted against you that badly, how do you come back? Well, I've lived in bigger cities than Clarksburg. 40% of Americans actually prefer to live in a city and not a suburb. I thought we could change the zoning. I was actually Secretary of Planning and Zoning before I resigned I won't get into. Make it attractive. Change our zoning to make it attractive to developers so that when push comes to shove and when what's going on at Charles Point comes to a head, we can say, come here. We've already got our infrastructure built. I can say White Oaks at least pays their bills. In the years the tax revenue was not enough, it appears they've stepped in and paid the bills. Charles Point, year after year for 15 years, I don't think they once made a bond payment. They got $7.5 million in 2013. They sold property to the county, who gave it to City of City of Bridgeport for the sports center. Did we get $7.5 million for our Robinson grant? No, the board's badly slanted against us. But I just wanted to say I was wrong because we don't have infrastructure. I thought our infrastructure was at least maintained on a basic level. Turns out it was. We have the water board issues. I know you love to say that's not your problem, but if those of you voted for the resolution to approve the bonds last year had read it, it said the city of Clarksburg owns and operates a water system through the Clarksburg Water Board. So either you committed tax fraud or bank fraud, or maybe you don't understand things. Maybe you've been misled a little bit about that situation. There's also the sewer bonds. I know John Workman has said if we had $100 million, we couldn't fix our sewer problems. Right below me on Euclid, those sewer lines collapsed, flooded basements, and you came in, ripped up 2 blocks of street, and then you said the water lines, the gas lines aren't where we think they are. So we're just gonna pave it back over and wait for the water board to fix their stuff. What when the water board comes through and your sewer lines are in the way or they collapse because they're made out of clay? EPA is not going to let you just kick the ball down the road again. All the fighting I've been doing for the last 2 years is just to ask the council to please face the music. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. DeVore.
Dixon Pruitt wishes to address council to introduce himself as candidate for sheriff.
Good evening, council. Good evening, everyone. I'm here this evening just to introduce myself. My name is Dixon Pruitt. I'm running for sheriff of Harrison County. Real briefly, I'm a retired Army combat veteran. I served 12 years proudly with the Clarksburg Fire Department before going to the Sheriff's Department, where I served 16 years. I just recently retired early so that I can run for sheriff. If you have any questions or comments, please visit my Proof for Sheriff Facebook page. All my contact information is there. You can reach me or see me after the meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
City manager's report. So we'll start with the city parks. So there's an update with the splash zone and mini golf. So fall projects are in circulation concerning the splash zone and mini golf. Everything's been shut down and drained. And the digital sign has been fixed. Veterans Park, so the 3-phase electrical panel update, there's work being done on that, and there's no timetable on when it's going to be complete. The Clarksburg City Park, the 2nd phase of the project is in order as a pole building is being constructed along the first baseline on a concrete pad. There's other projects happening within that city park as well. Staff scheduling concerts for the 2024 year. We hope to have a full schedule where allowed and announce a full schedule of events as soon as possible. There's plans for some free concerts and ticketed events. Under code enforcement, there's been a number of permits issued. There's been a number of violations issued within the city as well, and there's a number of structures under the condemnation list. There was 10 CAD complaints. There's been a number of inspections. Animal control has been busy this month and completed actions. So weekly checks of condemned structures for code violations. The MS4 water sampling results have been returned. There's continued inspections on the sidewalk program. There's been 27 work orders issued to Public Works. They're working with the county as well for a couple of projects, and other vehicles have been tagged and notices have been left. Economic development, so staff continue coordination efforts with the West Virginia Filmmaker Tax Credit Improvement. The grant writer is evaluating future state funding priorities as they relate to different transportation grants and potential projects. Staff and the city manager are compiling grant project opportunities and will provide grant criteria for evaluating potential grant applications. And the URA is meeting today. We actually met today and will be meeting again next week. There's been a number of collections in the finance department, and they're all outlined on this city manager report. The fire department assisted in the McDonald's in their 50th anniversary celebration in August. Probationary firefighter Jason Neville completed his live burn training. Firefighters attended the overdose awareness day. They also would like to thank Chief Kitty and all the police officers that assisted in the recent structure fire on Waldeck Street. And finally, this is my last city manager's report. I would like to thank council for the honor and privilege of serving as the city of Clarksburg's interim city manager and its fire department as chief. The police department responded to almost 2,700 calls for service in August. New police officer Jaron Morris was sworn in on September 5th. And the police department will be giving physical tests on September 16th, 23rd, and the 30th at the RCB High School, and written tests on October 21st. Public Works had a long list of work that they've done over the last month, just keeping the city in good working order and helping out where needed, weeding and prepping for the festivals that we're having in the city. In September, there's a whole lineup in the Robinson Grand. There's the Born and Bred concert, private baby shower, the Zach Williams concert, another private event on the 16th, the Blue October concert, Dave Da Vinci, John Angotti and Friends concert, Craft Film Festival, an Oktoberfest event. Under wastewater treatment plant, the discharge monitoring report will be submitted for the month of August, and there's no violations. The raw pump VFD has gone bad. They are working to get it repaired. This will take a few days to get done. Yearly tank inspections are still in process, and at the request of the director of wastewater, to remind the public to please not flush baby wipes or flushable wipes down the drains. They do not dissolve and can cause blockages in the sewer line as well as damage to the pumps.
Unfinished business, Arlington Sewer Project. Consideration of third and final reading and public hearing of an ordinance authorizing the design and other pre-construction services for the additions, betterments, and improvements to the sewer system of the city of Clarksburg, as well as costs to be paid to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in regard thereto, and the financing of the costs thereof, not otherwise provided, through the issuance by the city of not more than $1,500,000 in aggregate principal amount of sewer design revenue bonds, series 2023A, providing for the rights and remedies of and security for the registered owners of such bonds, authorizing execution and delivery of all documents relating to the issuance of such bonds, and authorizing the sale and providing for the terms and provisions of such bonds, and adopting other provisions relating thereto.
We will now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against may do so at this time.
Is this the 1.5 million for Arlington? And if so, have we done the math on that? I've heard of here in the future or in the past, you got to do the math. These are people that live outside of the city limits. Are our interest payments going to exceed what they pay into the system? Has anyone done that math? They've chosen not to live in the city limits of Clarksburg. They don't pay property tax. They don't pay any of our fees. Why are we indebting ourselves to people who've made that choice? I know there's a backstory and promises were made. I wasn't part of those promises.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against may do so.
I mean, it's probably an asinine question, but I would be for it if it's going to be responsible as far as not having to rip stuff up multiple times to address multiple issues, kind of like just constantly throwing money away, like a lot of the problems in the city. A lot of the time somebody fixes a road, comes through, rips it up. Kind of like what I'm wondering what's going to happen on South Chestnut Street since they're doing the ADA in front of the cemetery. And the water board, I think, isn't going to go up that far. But if they do have to go up that far, are they going to end up ripping all that out that was just put? I mean, you guys really should like coordinate your departments a lot better. A lot better.
as a taxpayer, as a person that's like runs an organization that's got a majority of the cemeteries, it gets kind of tiresome to see good money thrown after bad.
Anyone else? We'll now close the public hearing. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion?
Yeah, in reference to that, Ryan, the Army Corps engineer was, I guess we were ordered, I guess, to provide them because they're dumping their waste directly over the hill into the West Fork. And they said eventually we are going to have to do it regardless of what they thought. So that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. That's why we reached out to the Army Corps engineer, Army Corps of Engineers rather, and that's what this is all about. So.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Consideration of second and final reading and public hearing of an ordinance authorizing the design, acquisition, construction, and equipping of certain extensions, additions, betterments, and improvements to the existing sewage system of the city of Clarksburg.
We will now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against may do so at this time. We will now close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
New business, consideration of a supplemental resolution providing for the principal amount, date, maturity date, interest rate, interest and principal payment dates, and other terms of the sewage design revenue bonds, Series 2023A of the City of Clarksburg, authorizing and approving the sale and delivery of such Series 2023A bonds, approving and making other provisions as to the Series 2023A bonds.
So moved.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors. My name is Tim Strykel. I'm a member of the West Virginia Bar, and I'm counsel for the Sanitary Board. Your Sanitary Board is excited about this project. The purpose, the grand motive, is to protect the West Fork watershed. We have about 120 homes that are unsewered right up against the watershed. It's simply non-tenable. The past, the present, the future of this community depends on the quality of that watershed. And that's what your Sanitary Board knows, and that's why it encourages you and appreciates your support for this critical project. I'm joined this evening by Mr. Amon, our friend from Steptoe and Johnson, who's the bond lawyer and the numbers guy. So if you have numbers questions, I went to law school, not med school, so Tom can talk about that. But overall, the Sanitary Board sent its regards and is very excited about another step forward to a pristine West Fork watershed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Tom?
Good evening. So I'll try to address, I think there's 3 more actions. I'll try to address them all here so that if you have any questions, I can come back and try to do that. So the supplemental, at the time of going through the bond ordinance process, we did not have a purchaser of the bonds at that point, so didn't know the final terms. And so once we got to the point where we could go out with the city could go out with an RFP, request for proposals for financing to purchase the bonds, that was done. MBB was the institution that provided the best terms for the purchase. And so the supplemental approves MBB as the purchaser pursuant to the commitment letter that's attached to the supplemental resolution, approves the actual bond amount, which will be $1.5 million. And then their interest rate not to exceed 7.8%. But I think the actual rate is going to be 7.61%. So you're going to be within that sort of maximum amount that they provided. They will be monthly payments. That will be an interest-only period that will start in October and run through it'll start in November 1 and run through December 1 of 24 for interest only. And then the idea is that we'll have permanent financing that will be in place by that time. We'll pay off this design loan. And at that time, the permanent financing will stand alone. But if it does not, then this particular loan or bond will then start amortizing in January 1 of 25 and then term out 14 years after that. So we've got a 15-year bond. MVB will stay in for that whole period of time at that 7.61% rate. The idea is they will be taken out by the permanent financing. If not, this will stand on its own at that point in time. You also have the first draw resolution, which will approve the use of the bond proceeds to pay all the costs that have been incurred up to this point, including the closing costs. So you have a grid there that shows who those parties are. I can go down and answer any questions about that you may have. The sweep resolution, what the Municipal Bond Commission requires a process where the payments are automatically withdrawn from the revenue fund and moved to the Bond Commission, then they actually make the payments on the bond to MVB as those payments are due on a monthly basis. So that just approves that automated withdrawal and that payment transfer process. After the 2 public hearings and those 2 ordinances and then these 3 resolutions, that will complete the official action that would be necessary from council. And then at that point, the closing is scheduled for next Friday, and we hope to be able to sign the documents this evening. And then we'll finalize things between now and then. And then that first draw or first advance will be made next Friday to fund the amounts indicated in that first draw resolution. And the remaining funds will be available on a drawdown basis as needed to pay costs. So we'll have that same draw resolution that can be completed as payments need to be made, approved by council, and then MVB will then fund those amounts and the city can then disperse payments based on that. I think that covers most things, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Raymond?
I do not have an actual amortization schedule yet because MVB is preparing that and will get that to us next week. So I can't give you the actual monthly payment amounts just yet.
Do you have an estimate?
I knew someone would ask that question.
It's okay.
Trying to think if I have that on me. I think I just might. I have an amortization schedule that was based on the highest rate that was. Actually, if you have, do you all have the supplement? If you all have the supplemental, and then if you have that, there's an amortization schedule. Yeah, and that will show on it, but that's based on the 7.8%, and you all are actually going to get something less than that. So
That looks like $14,261.
yeah, so your actual payments will be slightly
A
less
little
than
bit less
that.
than that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The schedule that's been prepared by Dan at Thrasher Engineering is providing that the design is going to begin right around this period of time, complete and submitted around July of 24, begin construction approximately January of 25. So based on that schedule, when they'll advertise for bids on October of 24, we should have the permanent financing in place prior to closing sometime around November, December of next year, at which time this design loan would be paid off.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
We didn't get a second.
We didn't get a second. Second. We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Consideration of a sweep resolution which would authorize monthly electronic transfer of funds to the Municipal Bond Commission in amount sufficient to pay the monthly debt services on the series sewer design revenue bonds and other related costs.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Consideration of a first draw resolution which would authorize the first advance of funds from the sewer design revenue bonds to pay initial cost of the Arlington Area Improvement Project, to pay the cost of issuance of the bonds, and to pay other related costs.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Consideration of a request from the West Virginia Housing Development Fund for support to pass the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act of 2023.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Council comments?
Well, let's let the new expectant mother go first. Congratulations, Hattie.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's good to be back post-COVID. A couple things. The manager's report was really impressive, and I just want to thank the police and fire for the good job they did during that local fire recently. There's also the festival this weekend that I encourage everyone to come out to. I hear there's a pretty good lineup on Saturday for music and food, so it'd be great to see a good turnout there. It was a really good turnout, it seemed like, for the Italian Heritage Festival, so I hope you all got a chance to see that as well. Let's see. I wanted to give an update. I don't know if any of this applies to anybody here, but I've been getting emails about the Stony Brook community who were here a few meetings ago, and I had spoke with Tiffany, and she is working on that, so I don't know if that applies to anyone here, but I just kind of wanted to give an update as well on that. So thank you all, and hope you have a good weekend.
Councilman Ward?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and voicing your concerns. I also want to thank the Public Works and the Police Department, Fire Department, everyone involved for all that work that was put into to make sure we have a successful Italian Heritage Festival. It's a lot of work when you're having to coordinate with vendors and, and other folks in a big parade that has 7,000 people in the streets, and then coordinating the whole tear down, within a day, and then having traffic flow again. So kudos to them. It was good to see that our agenda was pretty heavy infrastructure. I believe that's pretty much the public safety infrastructure, a little bit of quality of life. That's pretty much our main functions of government, is the basics. And I do like, this is a really particularly good agenda. With that said, to be honest with you, we have probably about over 100 years underneath of us. And that may not seem very sexy when it comes to, things that we want to do in the city. But at the end of the day, if you don't know where your waste is going when you flush a toilet, or whether or not you could drink your water or not, then how can you run a city? It's just that simple. And I do appreciate the Water Board for coming and speaking on the Chestnut Street project. We really have to, I think we really have to face the music on this. You're looking at a main water line that if it busted, you're looking probably about 65,000 customers that could immediately be without water. I think that would be a tragedy. So $350,000, I don't think is a whole lot. I think we should consider that. I believe we do have a little bit of ARPA money left, and, you know, I just hope that the rest of the council feels that way too. Other than that, you know, wish everybody have a good weekend, and, you know, Black Heritage Festival's this weekend, and 2 weekends in a row that our downtown's going to be pretty vibrant, you know, and I think we should celebrate that. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Councilman Ward. Councilman Howe?
I just thank everybody for coming out, and again, thank the police, fire, and public works for the hard work this past weekend. I definitely understand it takes a lot of hard work and dedication. We appreciate that. And Jason and the water board, we appreciate you coming as well. It's definitely a big project. You have a larger project ahead of you, and so if we can get this dealt with in a timely manner. So appreciate all those coming out and expressing their opinions as well. That's all I have. Have a good weekend.
Councilman Jackson?
I would like to thank everyone for coming out and voicing their cares and concerns. We're working on the heavy lift, but I encourage everyone, you know, help us get our city beautiful again. You know, make sure you keep pride in your property. We're going to keep putting the work in. You know, I've heard a lot of concerns from all of you all this evening, and it's going to take time, but we're going to get there. You know, we didn't get in this condition overnight, and we're not going to get done in a day, in a week, in a year. But, you know, we're going to keep putting that work in. I would also like to congratulate Officer Morris, who joined the Clarksburg Police Department, and wish him a long career with the department. I would like to say thank you to Chief Police for his hard work and time dedicated to the city as he gets ready to retire out. And, you know, the Italian Heritage Festival last week, we had a good time here in Clarksburg. West Virginia Black Heritage Festival this weekend coming up. So come back to Clarksburg and enjoy yourselves again. Thank you.
I'd like to commend the fire department, the police department for their actions on Waldeck Street, and give a party goodbye to Chief Police. I think you did a fine job as interim city manager, and put out more fires than just what we have on the street. So that's you did a pretty good job of that. I'd like to welcome Officer Morris, our newest police officer, to the city, and hopefully he has a long career, like Mr. Jackson said. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and speaking their mind, and you know, I guess it works just as well as it does in here as it does out there, apparently. So you know, that's what it's all about, coming to air your grievances and let us know what we can do better and what we're doing wrong. So the Italian Heritage Festival was another blast. I had a great time. We're at the fire truck again. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate the support on the fire truck, and Black Heritage Festival coming up should be a good time too. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I'm gonna change my name, or they get rid of me or something.
We have if you're wondering what's going on outside, Friends Feeding Friends are protesting this evening, so there's about 50 of them marching up.
They've been on the court out.
Now I believe they're surrounding City Hall.
Sorry.
Vice Mayor.
Just want to thank everybody for coming out. And also want to mention Chief Police retiring. You're still going to keep working though, right? You said you're keeping those hours. I don't get that. But definitely enjoyed my time working with you, next to you. Not next to you, obviously I was not doing any fires. Well, except for I was on Waldeck Street, but I was the person to respond on Waldeck Street, but nobody mentioned that. Anyways. Okay. But definitely it's been a privilege and an honor, and I know that everybody feels very highly about you, and we're going to miss you. So, you know, come back and visit sometimes. You know, Jason, I have 3 of these packets at my house. So I appreciate your consistency. I mean, I know the water board is not our problem, but it is our problem. Our citizens need the water. It's our problem. I've always thought that. So hopefully as a council, we can get together and you know, help out. One thing that the county commission, they gave us $300,000. It was earmarked for water. give to the water board. At least that number's always been in my head. So yeah, I mean, it's in our city, it affects our people, it's our problem. So hopefully we can get together and get that figured out. And yeah, the festival was great, perfect weather. The Black Heritage Festival, I'm hoping for good weather this weekend too. So it's 2 weekends in a row, like Wayne said, it's gonna be just the vibe, I guess, as the young kids would say. I know I'm the young kid in this room, but it's just, you felt it last week, even Monday, before the festival even started, more people were downtown, you can just feel the energy downtown, and it's good. And so, I mean, downtown's the heartbeat of your city, so we need to do more and get more things like happening, so I'm looking forward to this weekend as well. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Well, it's not very fun going last because everybody says everything. First of all, Clarksburg Fire Department, that fire was pretty close to my house on Ball Deck. Police Department, you know, I mean, it was just ironic that there was a shift change at that time and we had so many firemen on the scene because you guys saved both those houses on either side. And Mr. Riffle, thank you. Obviously, you didn't listen to your mom and dad. You don't run into a burning building, but he saved pets and elderly ladies. So Jerry, thank you.
It's kind of suspicious. I don't know about that.
Must be running for re-election. Congratulations to the West Virginia Italian Heritage Festival for another successful year. I'm proud to say, and I say this, and I've been saying this for 3 years since my incident. If you see something, say something, pick up the phone and dial 911. We now have about 23 signs that are going into neighborhoods to remind people that if you see something, say something. We have the Black Heritage Festival this weekend, and if I'm not mistaken, this is like number 34? 34th Italian Black Heritage Festival. I think this is their 10th or 11th year that they're up here on the courthouse. They used to be on EB Saunders Way. Chief Police, what can I say? Hate to see you go, but you've earned it. So thank you, sir, for your service to the city. And thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening and expressing your concerns. They will get addressed. You know, the wheels moves kind of slow sometimes, so give us time and bear with us, please. Can I have an adjournment, please?
Motion adjourned.
Second. We have a motion adjourned. Thank you.